Is he dead? 3 words. That is what millions of people believe they heard buried in the background of that emergency call from the boat Nolan Wells was last seen near. And now the FBI has weighed in on who was actually speaking in that recording. And the answer is something nobody following this case was prepared for. Because the person behind that voice did not stay silent. They went on record publicly, identified themselves, and what they revealed changes the entire way this audio has to be understood. Tonight, we are walking through the identity, the FBI's findings, and the one detail about that recording that almost everyone overlooked. Nolan Wells was 18 years old when he went to Horn Island with a group of friends on the 4th of July and never came home. His body was recovered 2 days later just off that island. And what followed became one of the most intensely watched cases this country has seen in years. A family demanding answers, a community refusing to let the story go quiet, and a legal team led by Ben Crump building public pressure every single week. Then the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources released a dispatch call, a frantic, chaotic call made from the boat his friends were on around 4 in the afternoon on July 4th. And for days it sat there as background noise, just a teenager begging Sea Tao for help because the bilge pump had failed and water was rising inside the hull. Then TMZ took that same recording and enhanced it. And the moment that enhanced version dropped, everything in this case shifted overnight. Because buried in that background chaos, listeners started pulling out specific phrases. Is he dead? Someone calling out Nolan, voices saying check his chest, wake up. And underneath all of it, the caller on the line screaming at everyone around him to shut up. The internet had a new theory by morning, and that theory spread to tens of millions of people before a single official source had confirmed a word of it. But now the FBI has entered this audio story directly. A forensic expert has gone on record with findings that contradict the most viral version of events, and the person whose voice is at the center of all of this has now spoken publicly and identified himself. Stay with us, because this is where it gets complicated in a way that matters. Warren Hudson is one of Nolan's friends who was present on Horn Island that day. He has now publicly come forward and given the most specific first-hand account of what actually happened on that boat in those exact minutes that the audio captured. Hudson spoke on a podcast and described a situation that was not a casual trip back to shore. It was a genuine emergency. The bilge pump had completely stopped working. The boat was actively taking on water, and the group was scrambling in the middle of Mississippi Sound trying to keep themselves afloat. Hudson described a member of their group in full panic, calling out Nolan's name, trying desperately to get him onto the boat before they had no choice but to leave. According to Hudson, Nolan made the decision to stay on the island with a girl he had been talking to, and the boat departed without him while still fighting to stay above water. The shouting on that recording, the overlapping voices, the raw, unfiltered panic. Hudson's own direct account explains exactly where every second of that came from. Not from something that happened to Nolan on that boat. From a vessel in an active sinking emergency while Nolan was still standing on that island behind them. That is the context this audio went viral completely without. And the FBI is now dealing with the consequences of exactly that missing piece. Here is where the Bureau's role in this audio story becomes specific. And this is the part of tonight's update that reframes everything else. The FBI confirmed to ABC News that its work in the Nolan Wells case has specifically focused on interstate threats received by individuals connected to this matter. Those threats, according to multiple sources, are directly tied out to what happened online after that enhanced audio spread the way it did. People who became fully convinced by those 3 words that something criminal happened on that boat started targeting the people connected to it. Sending threats serious enough and across enough state lines that federal jurisdiction was triggered. That is not a minor development. When the FBI's Jackson Field Office issued its full public statement on the case, the language was deliberate. The Bureau described real federal tools, real partnerships, and a focus on protecting people connected to this story from threats that had already crossed state boundaries. The statement was also explicit that the Jackson County Sheriff's Office remains the lead agency on the underlying investigation. Federal support, not federal command. That distinction matters for understanding exactly what role the Bureau is playing here. But now layer on top of that what a forensic expert just found when he actually sat down and compared the audio files side by side. Digital forensics expert Robert Fried appeared on News Nation's Jesse Weber Live and did something nobody covering this story had done yet. He pulled up the original recording released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources and placed it directly against the TMZ enhanced version and compared them frame by frame. What he found is not a small discrepancy. The TMZ version runs 20 full seconds longer than the original file. Beyond that, it carries a completely different digital fingerprint, meaning the underlying file had been altered or processed in a way that fundamentally distinguishes it from the source material. Fried went on record saying he could not corroborate a single phrase that TMZ claims to hear in that recording. Not is he dead, not check his chest, not wake up. None of it when held against the actual original. He also pointed out something that had gone largely unreported. The version the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources released to the public had already been partially redacted before anyone outside the investigation ever heard it. Account numbers, phone numbers, identifying metadata, all of it stripped before release, which means the clean, unaltered, complete original recording has never been publicly available. Not once. What the internet has been treating as evidence is an enhanced version of an already redacted copy, processed in a way that changed its digital fingerprint, with a qualified forensic expert saying under his own name on national television that he cannot verify any of the phrases driving the biggest theory in this case. And there is more sitting underneath this audio story that has not gotten enough attention. Two witnesses reportedly told TMZ directly that they saw Nolan still standing on Horn Island after his friend's boat had already left. If that witness account is verified, it means Nolan was not on that vessel at all when any of those background voices were recorded, which aligns exactly with what Warren Hudson described when he gave his own account of what happened. Investigators have not officially commented on the witnesses, but everything confirmed so far points in the same direction. The timeline, Hudson's account, the witness claims, the forensic analysis of the audio. None of it supports the theory that those three words were about Nolan on that boat. None of this means the questions around his death are answered though. Not even close. And that is the part this family is still living inside every single day. 2 autopsies have now been conducted on Nolan Wells, and neither has produced a final conclusion for his family. The state autopsy remains pending. The independent autopsy, arranged through Ben Crump and conducted by forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell, came back with both cause and manner of death listed as undetermined pending further investigation. Mitchell was clear about why: advanced decomposition and the fact that the body had already undergone a prior official examination significantly limited what could be conclusively established from a second procedure. Undetermined is not an answer. It is a door that is still open, and Nolan's family has made clear they will not accept it as a final destination. The investigation is now confirmed to be heading toward a grand jury referral once it concludes, and Nolan's phone is about to undergo a coordinated joint review, the family's own independent investigators and law enforcement examining its contents together for the first time. Roughly 60 witnesses have already been interviewed as the sheriff's department pieces together Nolan's final hours on that island, hour by hour. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, who reviewed the evidence publicly available in this case, said what she has seen points toward an accident. But she was direct and careful in the same breath. More details could still emerge, and she is not closing any door on this investigation until the full picture is in front of her. That is the honest position this case demands from everyone covering it. because the confirmed facts and the viral narrative have been running in two different directions for weeks now. What this week has exposed is something that goes beyond any single theory or any single piece of audio. In a case with two autopsies still pending, no official cause of death, and a family carrying completely legitimate unanswered questions about what happened to their 18-year-old son, 3 words in the muffled background of an emergency call became the single most shared piece of evidence in the entire investigation. Before any forensic expert had verified them, before the identity of any voice had been officially established, and before anyone had confirmed that the file being analyzed had not already been altered from its original form. The FBI is now managing the real-world consequences of that gap, because the threats that followed were serious enough to cross states' lines and pull federal resources into protecting people who never asked to be at the center of this story. Warren Hudson went on record. A forensic expert went on national television. The FBI put its role in writing. 2 witnesses placed Nolan on that island after the boat left. And the enhanced audio that sent this theory around the world has a different digital fingerprint than the original file it claims to be based on. Those are the confirmed facts on the table tonight. The Wells family still does not have a cause of death. They still do not have a final autopsy result. They still have a phone that has not been jointly examined and a grand jury that has not yet received a case. Every process in this investigation is still running, and none of them are finished. We are going to stay on every confirmed development as it arrives and bring it to you the moment the facts are actually in, not a second before.